girlies are addicted to a new drink. Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over all of the books I read this summer, what I thought about them, my honest, very honest opinion on them. Okay, so I read a total of 14 books this summer. A lot of them were nonfiction, which is a new era for me, and I love it. I love it. It makes me feel like I'm a read woman. So we're going to go over those, and then we're going to talk about the fiction books I read. The first nonfiction book I read this summer, I finally finished Atomic Habits. I started this book, I think January 1st, so it's a little embarrassing that I finally finished it, but it's because I had a lot more time and then made a goal. I told myself I had to finish it because this was getting embarrassing. So Atomic Habits, I would almost say, is one of the most well-known self-help books. Everyone knows about this one. It's, you know, it's a Heather's pick. This girl knows what she's doing. But pretty much this is a book for everything habit related. So if you ever had habit struggles, or you're just curious to know the science behind habits and best way to form habits, this is the book for you. I actually really like this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It is so easy to read, and it's actually so easy to read, and it's really fast to read too. So everything is really broken down into good little chapters, and everything is written in a very understandable way. The thing I really liked about this book is that it went to the nitty-gritty. It went down to the nitty-gritty reasons of why your habits aren't working, and then it also gives you so many different methods of forming a habit, which is so useful because not every single method works for everyone. So I definitely learned so much from this book. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 stars is because to me it didn't feel like anything groundbreaking. I guess I expected more from the way everyone talked about this book. But overall, like, a really good read. I definitely recommend it to everyone. I don't want my words to make anyone not read this book. It is wonderful. The next book I read, I actually listened to it as an audiobook. It's called Invested: How Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger Taught Me to Master My Mind, My Emotions, and My Money. This book is really great, especially if you're someone who's curious about investing and just wants to know where to start. This book is about this woman, Danielle Town, whose father is a famous investor, Phil Town, and this book is about her journey to investing and how her dad teaches her how to invest. So you're pretty much in the perspective of Danielle getting advice from her father, which makes it so easy to learn as someone who wants to get into investing. If you're already a master of investing and know about the principle of value investing, then I don't think this book is going to be extremely helpful to you, but I actually really liked it. I gave it a 4 stars. Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about that book. The next book I read was also an audiobook. It's called You Are a Badass at Making Money, Master the Mindset of Wealth. You can see the trend I'm going with here and what I was interested in learning over the summer. This book I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't blown away. It was, as the title says, it's all about your mindset around money, and leaving that lack mentality teaches you all about your doubts and fears towards money. I think this is a really great read for people who are scared of money, if you know what I mean, are scared of wanting things or spending money. I would suggest you actually, if you do choose to read it, I would suggest you read it as a physical book. As an audiobook, it's a little hard to follow, but I gave it a 3 stars because I personally didn't feel like I learned too much from it. I wasn't really inspired while reading this book, and honestly, I just wanted the book to end. I was over it. Next book I read was Financial Feminist: Overcome the Patriarchy's Bullshit to Master Your Money and Build the Life You Want. Financial Feminist. I actually have been listening to Tori's podcast for a while now. I actually really like it. This is such a great book. I highly recommend this book to anyone who wants to learn about personal finances, investing, anything financial related. And this is written specifically for women. And that is because there's a lot of obstacles in women's life that don't present in men's life when it comes to making money. I felt like Tori broke down the concepts so well. And again, this was so easy to read. I started reading this book as an audiobook, and then it occurred to me that this is not the book for audio, because she gives you assignments and homework to do, and it's a very interactive book. I also wanted a physical copy so I could go back and reference some things she says. I highly recommend this book. I thought it was really good. I'm not sure why I gave it a 4 stars rather than the 5, but I'm not going to change it regardless. The last self-help book I read this summer was Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given, and it's all about how feminism is going to ruin your life. Not in the way you're thinking, in a way where you will start questioning everything you do and everything that is around you, because everything in some way was created to hinder women's success. In this book, Florence talks about her own journey of self-love, self-acceptance, and finding her own power. And she talks about how women tend to gain comfort in other women's flaws. And she goes over how to recognize and fight against the male gaze. And lastly, she talks about embracing body positivity. I thought this book was really great. I really liked it. But to be honest, I wasn't blown away. It's just concepts that I've already read about, knew about, but otherwise I thought it was very insightful. I think this book is really powerful, and it does deep dive into a lot of important questions and concepts we should be questioning. I just felt like I just kind of wished the book went into more depth. The chapters were really short. I just wanted more substance to every single topic she talked about. So the first fiction book I read this summer was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this book 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. I liked this book a lot more than The Six Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I think this is one of my favorite books that Taylor Jenkins Reid has put out. I thought the story was so easy to read. It was so fun. It really got me in the tennis mood. Afterwards, I went and signed myself up for tennis lessons. My critique was that I felt like there was a lack of build-up towards the big ending. I am a crier at heart. I'm a very emotional person, and I didn't cry or shed a tear at the end. The ending is supposed to be really sad, and a lot of other booktubers talked about how they just sob, and although it is like extremely sad, don't get me wrong, I felt like I had a lack of emotional connection to some of the characters in this book. I felt like I had a good emotional connection with the main character, but not really for the supporting characters. I really liked how the book dived into the difference between men playing a sport and women playing a sport. Yeah, I just love learning about tennis and that kind of world. Next book I read was Curse of the Wolf King, and this is a Snow White. I lied, it's not Snow White. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I really loved this read. I gave it 4 stars. There's something so wonderful about reading a book where you know the ending already, because obviously we all know what happens in Beauty and the Beast. I went in with no expectations. I wasn't there trying to predict what was going to happen, and I think that's what made it just so lovely to consume. Other reviews on this book said it was like too predictable and whatever, but of course, like, we know what's gonna happen. It's Beauty and the Beast. I thought the imagery of this book was just so well done, and obviously, like, it was just so heartwarming, like the whole entire story. I thought it was so cute. This is the first book in the Entangled with Faith series. I'm really excited to read the other books of the series. The other books are other characters in the story, so they're in the same universe, but it's not the same characters. So the book is about this girl named Gemma who just wants to leave her past behind. She had some bad things happen in a previous town she lived in, and she's had her heart broken in the past. So this makes her really skeptical to wanting to warm up to anyone else. In the same town lives a Fae king who was plagued by a curse, and this king hates humans, and he will do anything to break the curse. So Gemma and the king team up together to help him break the curse. They created a bargain to benefit Gemma escaping her family, escaping her life. Here's the catch. To break the curse, the king needs to fall in love with someone, and that person is supposed to be willing to give their greatest treasure up for him. When the curse is broken, the king, Elliot, will return back into his wolf form, and all was good. The best way to describe this book is if ACOTAR and Bridgerton had a baby. What's more to love? So of course, with The Other Half of the World, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. I gave this book 4 stars, and this is a second chance love story. So Happy Place is about this couple who breaks off their engagement, and they have the same mutual group of friends, and they can't bring themselves to tell their friends what happened. So they're kind of planning and scheduling so they each hang out with their friends at different times, so no one has to know the truth. And then of course something happens where they end up in the same house with all of their friends, and so they decide the best thing to do is not to tell the truth. You know, that seems like the sensible thing to do, but instead they pretend that they never broke up. Here are my thoughts. I gave it 4 stars. I liked this book more than I liked Book Lovers. I feel like the reason that they broke up was a really valid reason, and maybe I'm just not a second chance romance girl, but I wouldn't give a second chance in this situation. I felt like both of the characters were really bad at communicating, which is so frustrating. Just learn to communicate, you're adults. I didn't expect the amount of grief that would be in this book. I almost felt like there should be a content warning, but like other than that, I felt the book was so good. I cried in some of the moments when Emily Henry is describing heartbreak. I thought it was very accurate and like done very well. I also love the beach house summer situation. It's just a perfect summer read. Perfect book to read. It is sad. I read the book and I was really sad for a few days because it's just done well. It's done well. The next book I read is a trilogy. It was about time I read this, honestly. I've seen all the hype online. I read the Summer I Turned Pretty series because you know everyone is obsessed with the Summer I Turned Pretty TV show. So I had to read the series before I watched the TV show, obviously. So I gave the first book a 4 stars. I actually really liked it. I thought it was done well. It was cute. If you go in with the expectation to get a fun little summer beachy YA romance, then that's what you're gonna receive. And there's not much to disappoint in this book. If you're not aware of the series, it's pretty much a love triangle between this one girl and 2 brothers who have visited the same summer home forever, pretty much, for the entirety of their life. It's a cute story, like you can't deny that. Then the second book, We'll Always Have Summer, also good. It is really sad. This book is a lot about grief. It's still the same love triangle, and I also really like the second book. It's so easy to read. Third book, It's Not Summer Without You, I think is my least favorite book of the series. Honestly, and this is controversial, if you haven't read the series yet, just read the first 2. Leave it at that. Have that story. Have that good impression in your mind. Don't bother with this third book, to be completely honest. I don't think it was done well. This book just was all over the place. I'm really curious to see how the producers of the TV show are going to adapt this book because it was kind of wild. I felt like Belly made some really dumb decisions. I don't know, just something about teenagers not listening to their mom. It just frustrates me. I know that's like a normal thing. I definitely have moments when I didn't listen to my mom, but like some of these moments are just insane. And honestly, the whole entire plot would be escaped if Miss Girl swallowed her pride, listened to her mom, and maybe believed what an adult says. Also, it's kind of weird because this book takes place after her first year of university, and I just didn't feel like she was acting like she was first university. When you're, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like you make smarter decisions. Whatever. I think I'd give this series, like the whole series, a 3. So after reading the Summer I Turned Pretty series, I was in that summer reads mood. I just wanted to keep reading summer books. So I picked up Tessa Bailey's Secretly Yours, and this is the first Tessa Bailey book I've ever read. I will be honest, the main reason I picked this up was because the cover was pink, and if the cover is pink, there's a 9 out of 10 chance I will buy it. This is a romance. Okay, so I would say there's 2 main tropes in this book. The first one is she fell hard, she felt first, he fell harder, and then the sunshine and grumpy trope. I actually thought this book was really good. A lot of people complain that it drags on for a very long time and it's boring, but again, if you go in with the only expectation of reading a fluffy romance, that is exactly what you're gonna get. Don't expect some wild plot for a romance book. You know what I mean? This book was extremely spicy. I would say one of the spiciest books I've ever read. So keep that in mind when you're picking up this book off your shelf. But I thought it was so cute. It's pretty much about this girl, Haley, who falls in love with this guy, Julian, when she's 14. She moves away and then he goes, teaches at some prestigious university as a professor. And then he moves back into the town. And she's a gardener, so their family hires her to do gardening at their vineyard, at his family vineyard. That's where the romance begins. I liked it. I give this book a 3.75 stars, but I would read the second book in the series. I am so excited to talk about this next book. I read The Dictionary of Lost Words. Dare I say, this is the best book I read this summer, and I can't decide if this is my favorite book of 2023. This book was so incredibly good. It was a book club book from my book club, and I'm ashamed to admit that I've been planning on reading this book since November of last year, and I just kept pushing it off because I felt like it was going to be a boring read. It's a historical fiction. I feel like historical fictions can be hit or miss, but this book was so incredibly good. If you were a fan of All the Light We Cannot See, it's kind of similar. This book is about the creation of the dictionary. It's about this girl named Esme who grows up with the dictionary because her father is one of the writers of the Oxford Dictionary. From a very young age, she starts to collect words. She realizes that a lot of words that women use and poor people use don't end up in the dictionary. So what she does is that she starts recording words on her own and she collects them. This book is a story about a life. It's a story about grief. It's a story about love, and you are experiencing Esme's full life, and it is so incredibly beautiful. Everything she goes through, the grief she goes through, it's just so well done. A lot of people do not finish this book. They say it's boring. I cannot relate at all. Like, in the first 100 pages, I was hooked. I thought it was so good. It's so beautiful. It is a very slow-paced book, but regardless, it's just so good. I realized from this book that I really love reading about people's lives. All the Light We Cannot See, also historical fiction, is one of my 5-star reads. That's also about the life of two individuals. When I tell you I sobbed when reading this book, I don't think I've ever cried harder for a book than this book. To be completely honest, if I cry in the book, that means it's a good book. I love a book where I sob. If there's any book you read from books in this video, I highly suggest it's The Dictionary of Lost Words. Last book I read this summer was Riley Sager's The Only One Left. So this is his new release. I'm giving this one a 4 stars. It's about this caretaker named Kit who is tasked with taking care of this 71-year-old woman. Catch is, the 71-year-old woman is known for killing her entire family. But when this murder happened in 1929, there wasn't enough evidence to prove her guilty, and so she's never arrested. And one night, Lenora, the 71-year-old woman, decides that it's time to tell Kit the entire story of what happened, because this whole time she still hasn't told anyone what happened that night. I actually really love this book. Like, I highly recommend. I read Riley Sager's The House Across the Lake and I really enjoyed that book. I would say I enjoyed that book a little bit more than this one. This book took me like 2 days to read. It was just really sucks you in and you really feel like you are in the story. You are there in that room experiencing what is happening. The reason I couldn't give it a 5 stars is the twists were so jaw-dropping that Miss Girl just got confused at the end. At one point, I had to close the book and sit in silence because I was so confused at the first twist. I just couldn't like wrap my head around it, and I swear this twist after twist after twist. This one girl on TikTok said it's almost as if there was too many twists, and I kind of agree with her. I love twists. I love them. But this book is just one after the other. There's one little twist that happens at the very end. Honestly, leaving that twist out would have been okay. I would have been happy, but it was a good twist. Like, you can't ignore that. But just like some of the stuff that happens at the end, I felt like could have been left out. This book, while reading it, it almost made me scared to sleep at night. I wouldn't say it's horror or anything. At times, you feel like something supernatural is going on, and that kind of personally just freaks me out. It's a very gloomy setting. I think I also read this during a period of heavy rain in my city. I think just the whole vibe together was kind of gloomy and sad. It was a good book. Like, I would say one of my more favorite thrillers. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and I hope you'll have a fantastic day.